I was born in Lakeland, Florida. Well, it was Florida climate, so it was no snow or ice, or you might rarely get a freeze, but it wasn't much. And it was fun growing up there. I did a lot of camping and bicycling and hiking and hunting and going in the woods and so on. Well, I suppose they were typical parents. Well, they were concerned about our welfare and sometimes stern, but I don't consider them extra stern. They were, I just think they were decent, good parents. Well, I had a brother and 3 sisters, and it was me, my brother, and then the sisters. And it was a full house, so it was good to have company growing up, siblings. Well, I think the holidays were a fun time when we were all there together. And like being at the beach was fun. So those were good times, I think. Vacations and just company and holidays and celebrations. It was, yes, I think it was a good background. Well, we had arguments and fights, of course, but I don't know if we got into big trouble. Well, my mother was a homemaker. She later got into teaching and taught Latin because she had majored in Latin in college. My father was a post office clerk, and that was his career. No, we were not rich most of the time. When I was young, it was we had enough, but we didn't have a lot of extras. Although in 1947, my mother, inherited a substantial sum from an aunt, her mother's sister, and that changed things. No, I don't think they got wild with it. The 30s were Depression time, yeah. World War II pretty much ended Depression. That was the first half of the 1940s. That was wartime, so, you know, jobs were a bit plentiful and pay was decent. Well, it was rationing. You had a book of tickets. You could only, that lasted a certain period of time, a few weeks or months. You could only buy so much coffee, so much sugar, and so much meats. But it wasn't a difficult time. People shared the tickets and helped each other out in what they needed. So, no, I went right to college, University of Florida. Well, I was on a destroyer ship for half of it. And then I was transferred to the Bureau of Naval Personnel in Washington. While I was on the ship, we made a cruise through the Mediterranean to the Far East, and then I flew back from Japan to the United States. Well, that was during the sort of the end of the Korean War. Well, yeah, I rode a Korean minesweeper one day as an observer. It's a smaller ship. I was a ship secretary and assistant gunnery officer. I was operated in charge of the what we call the 3-inch 50 guns. Well, I was transferred from the ship to Washington, D.C. to the Bureau of Naval Personnel, and then after a year and a half or so, I got out in the Navy one day and started medical school the next day. I had applied to Georgetown and got in. I got in several places, but that was the one I wanted to go to. Well, it was a fun time. Well, she and some classmates from Mercy Hospital in Pittsburgh were on a rotation to DC General, and I think they worked on the pulmonary or TB ward. But anyhow, one time in the cafeteria, me and some medical school friends were there, and then Donna and some of her friends were also in the cafeteria. And somebody said, "Go over and find out who that girl is." And I did. And that's how it started. Yes, we started dating, and then she later, after she graduated from nursing school, in another 6 or 8 months or so, came down to D.C. with some friends, and they had an apartment. She worked at D.C., worked at Georgetown Hospital. I don't remember the details, but I think it was like, "I want to marry you," or something like that. Well, fortunately, she agreed. I can't say that I knew that, no, but we sort of took what came along, both of us. It wasn't all that difficult, really, at least for me. Of course, Donna was busy all the time. Well, I think it's an ongoing process, you know, from the time they were born on. And sometimes I think some of their preschool adventures were interesting. But as they grow up and mature, they find their own interests. And it's more like an adult relationship at that point. Donna and I both did to some extent. Anti-war and anti-death penalty, and for health care, national health care. Those are the main things. Well, I don't think we were extreme. We weren't arrested or jailed or anything. But we were active, yes. The peace movement, too, like with Pax Christi, a Catholic peace organization. Oh, yeah, I used to visit some prisoners on death row. Well, I'm an opponent, still am, of the death penalty. And so I became acquainted with some death row prisoners and wrote to them and visited occasionally. I did take correspond with legislators and others in hopes of changing it, but that didn't get anywhere. And supported those who opposed the death penalty, but we still have it. Yeah, in a way, it was an idea. Said everybody says we ought to have a new party, so I established what I called the New Party, and I corresponded with people and everything. I think later some group in Chicago took the name, and I don't know if it still exists or not, but I think actually President Obama was an early candidate of one of the New Party ventures in the Chicago area. So I sent copies of proposals to different people and so on. It never really became an effective force nationally. I think there were some local activities, there may still be someplace. I don't remember a lot of the detail, but apparently I had some back pain or chest pain. And we eventually went to and in a day or two we went to, as I recall, we went to the doctor. And they took an electrocardiogram and diagnosed a heart attack, and I was admitted to the hospital and then had heart surgery, after which I had a few cardiac arrests and was resuscitated, and then I think I had a second heart surgery, and I finally got out of the hospital after several weeks. But I was very confused and disoriented for weeks, maybe months. I don't remember being scared particularly. I may have been before the first surgery, but after that, you know, it just was the way it is. Well, I couldn't remember where I had put things or how to get somewhere, or short-term memory loss thing. But my remote or distant memory was good, you know. But I could remember childhood events and things like that. Oh, I think I did have a dream or something like that, where I was a starfish, and I was looking up at the moon. I was in shallow water, I guess. I looked up at the moon, and the moon made an eye in the center of me. Who knows? I guess it might have been, but I don't attach any particular meaning. Not now. I probably did in the past. No, I feel I have a pretty good memory now. I can function well. I wish I didn't get older, but that's the way it is. I had to retire from my medical practice, and for months probably I was just as more, and certainly for weeks, early, I was like a zombie. You know, I didn't have it. I had to be told what to do, when to do it, so. I don't know if I remember feeling hopeless, but I just, I know that I was a zombie. I remember that. Sometimes noisy, but it's also a pleasure to see them, including yourself and others, to see them and watch the new children, the new generations grow up. I think we've been very fortunate. So far, all the grandchildren have been healthy and normal intelligence and bodies, and I think that's a very good thing. Well, some people might think it's strange, but that's the way life is. You know, your ancestors look back at my grandparents, so they might feel there's, when they see all of their descendants, they might have wondered about it, but it was just a fact of life and in our existence, and I don't make too much of that. Where do I think the world is going to go? Well, I hope it stays where in orbit. Who knows what the future holds? Some of it depends on technology, but well, a lot of it does, I suppose. But there'll always be wars or rumors of wars. I think so far we've, at least in recent years, we've avoided major, I think humans have cataclysmic wars like World War II. Ability to adapt and so on. Anyhow, that's my hope, and I think the people of the world have learned that war is not the best thing. I would say I've had a happy life and a very good life. I've been very fortunate. Well, I found it very interesting. Of course, now it's like radio was then.
Yeah.
So common. It's useful. I think television adds a sense of reality to reporting and events. The pictures are a big thing. and I wish my children have as good a life, and grandchildren, and so on. Yeah, I'm satisfied.